What's up, everybody? It's going to be a huge fight day tomorrow night. Not only do we have Las Vegas at full capacity tomorrow night for Canelo, Caleb Plant, and what will be a 4-title unification bout in the 168-pound division, but in a similar division, on the other side of the country, on the east coast of the country, the MECCA, the MGM, will be hosting the Madison Square Garden, MSG is going to be hosting Kamaru Usman and the rematch with him and Colby Covington, the long-awaited rematch, the fight that Dana White deemed as one of the best fights that he's ever witnessed. And if anybody could say that, and carry some weight behind a statement like that, it would be a statement coming from Dana White. The man has made the UFC into the king that it is amongst MMA and organizations all across the board. If he says that was one of the best fights that he's ever witnessed, then that means something. Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, a lot of hype behind this fight. Both fighters made weight. Vicente Luque was going to be the stand-in for tomorrow's fight, and he ended up missing weight as the stand-in. So that ended up going south. Good thing that both fighters made weight. It's going to be a huge card. Kamaru Usman's been active. Definitely more active than Colby Covington. Colby Covington, his last fight was last September of 2020 against Tyron Woodley, where he ended up stopping him late in the fight. Colby Covington then, previous to Tyron Woodley, he basically took the entire 2020 off and ended up fighting Kamaru Usman in their fight in December of 2019. Kamaru Usman's been active, and just let alone this year, he was active against Gilbert Burns, and then he ended up having his rematch from his sole fight in 2020 with Jorge Masvidal. He ended up having that huge, long-awaited rematch with Jorge Masvidal, and what Kamaru Usman started saying, and now he's starting to lap the opponents in his division. He's cleaned out the division, now he's lapping it, and just recently, earlier this week, he ended up calling out none other than the other man who's going to be fighting in the sport of boxing tomorrow night that I just mentioned earlier. He called out Canelo Alvarez. He says that he would be really interested in having a crossover fight against Canelo Alvarez and face another great at their sport. So Kamaru is shooting for Kamaru Usman shooting for the sky here, for the stars. It's going to be a great fight as we're anticipating. Of course, this is what we anticipated in the first fight, in the first event that the UFC was able to get a full capacity crowd, or an arena at full capacity, which took place in this rematch against Jorge Masvidal earlier this year in April. That was UFC 261. That was an event. That event alone, just the hype behind that main event, the talk, the back and forth, the storyline behind their initial match where Jorge Masvidal ended up making weight in a matter of like 7 days or 9 days, something crazy, that he ended up dropping some crazy amount of pounds, ended up stepping in for Gilbert Burns, who had contracted COVID at that time. So he steps in at the last stand-in and ends up giving Kamaru Usman a good fight in itself. It was a decision loss. So the storyline was there, the hatred for one another, the vitriol, the disdain. It was great. It was a good storyline. And at that it was the first event in which we were going to be able to hold a full capacity crowd, an outdoor arena in Jacksonville, Florida. That event itself was amazing. And of course, Kamaru Usman ends up knocking out Jorge Masvidal in emphatic fashion. We never thought we'd see Masvidal like that, and it sure happened. Kamaru Usman landed an amazing punch, knocking Jorge Masvidal out. We haven't heard from Masvidal since. Here and there, he's got some interviews, but he hasn't been active in the octagon. That same night, we had Rose lift the title from Weili Zhang, ended up knocking her out in the first round to get her title back, and got herself back on top of that division, of the strawweight division. Same night, Valentina Shevchenko was in action against Jessica Andrade, and she ends up stopping Jessica in the second round. Uriah Hall, if you remember, that was the Uriah Hall Weidman freak show that they barely got into the fight. It was barely getting into the action, and Weidman's leg snaps in what was like a karmic effect of what Anderson Silva had suffered against Chris Weidman. So Chris Weidman ends up suffering the injury there. To open up that main event card was Anthony Smith against Jimmy Crute, in what was another crazy fight in which Jimmy Crute's back ended up going out on him. So that night was something else, something spectacular. The nerves, the adrenaline, the excitement. It was all present that night. And the show was closed by Kamaru Usman knocking out Jorge Masvidal. So that's what Kamaru Usman has done, and that's the body of work that he's put together this year. Colby Covington has not been active since his last fight against Tyron Woodley, which happened in September of 2020. So he's been inactive. He's been training. He's changed camps. He's talking a big game. He's a lot better at his smack talk and his trash talking. He's a lot smoother, a lot better delivery. So he's been practicing at that and practicing in the gym. He says he's got some surprises for tomorrow. We'll see. So did Masvidal, and then he got stopped. He got knocked out. Kamaru's boxing game was on full-fledged that night, and it showed. It was a crazy, crazy night. I can't wait. That main event alone is going to be the one to wait for. So we got the main event, and Rose is back. Not only did she lift the title from Weili Zhang in their last event that they put together, but now they're going to have their rematch, and it's going to happen as a co-main event tomorrow night as well. Both fighters made weight. Weili Zhang showing off a new haircut, short hair now for her, and she's been training with Henry Cejudo as well, or taking some tips from Henry Cejudo, and been training in Arizona. So, of all places. So Weili Zhang seems to have some new tricks up her sleeve, and she's trying to get her title back. Rose, with this victory, will cement her as one of the greats. As if she hasn't done enough yet, this fight tomorrow will definitely cement her as one of the greats in the strawweight division and in the history of the UFC. The third fight there's going to be a little break in there between Kamaru's and Rose's camp, because their coach is going to be in full action tomorrow. Not only does he have Trevor Whitman got Justin Gaethje, Rose, and Kamaru Usman all as part of the main event card. Sometimes the coaches usually have cards in the prelims or the early prelims, and then in the main event. So they got some time in between fights. This was going to be back to back to back. He wasn't going to have enough time, so he'll be able to corner Rose, corner Kamaru, and corner Gaethje, with 2 fights in between as a break to be able to prepare. So the opener has now been announced that it's going to be Justin Gaethje in the lightweight division, the best division in my opinion, the best division in the UFC, the lightweight division. Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler, a fight that I never thought was going to happen. Holy crap! Michael Chandler, since he left Bellator, he got signed as a stand-in for what was going to be Justin Gaethje and Khabib. And of course they didn't need him. Justin Gaethje succumbs to Khabib. He ends up taking the loss there. And then he comes back and he fights, Dan Hooker, to kick off this year, January 23rd. And he ends up knocking out Dan Hooker in round 1, comes back and challenges for the title against Charles Oliveira, who was the newly crowned champion after Khabib ends up retiring and giving up the belt. So Michael Chandler ends up coming back in what seemed like he was going to dethrone, or at least become, the champion in what would have been historic. From his signing to come in as a stand-in, people were already hating him because they felt that he was getting the Dana White treatment, or the Dana White privilege that they were calling, that he just got moved up right up the rankings. But Michael Chandler has a history and a resume and a trajectory second to none, with all kinds of top-level opposition coming into the UFC. But he had never fought for the UFC before. So therefore, people started hating on him, that he just got moved up right up the ranks with little to no work. Well, he was going to stand in for that title shot, ends up having the fight against Hooker and stops Dan Hooker. And then he gets into the title shot against Charles Oliveira. He loses. He almost had that title. He almost stopped Oliveira, but Oliveira just knew how to weather the storm, came back in round 2 and stops Michael Chandler. in what was a knockout victory for Charles Oliveira. He is the champ at this moment, and he's going to be facing off against Dustin Poirier to close out this year in a few weeks' time. Michael Chandler, coming off that loss, is now getting into a fight with Justin Gaethje. That's going to be an amazing, amazing way to not just open the pay-per-view, but quite likely will be the fight of the night, in my opinion. I don't see this fight being dull. I don't see this fight being stale. I don't see how either one of these fighters would give anything but 130%. These guys come out and they come out with guns blazing. It's going to be a hell of a fight for these two. Justin Gaethje coming off the loss to Khabib, which took place nearly a year ago, late October of 2020. Before that, he had defeated Tony Ferguson in what was one of the bloodiest fights I had seen. Then he comes off the loss to Khabib in his title shot, and Chandler coming off a loss in what was his title shot against Charles Oliveira. So a meaningful fight. This should be the first contender, or the fight for the number one contendership in the lightweight division. And they would, whoever wins this will be waiting to see who wins between Dustin Poirier and Charles Oliveira. Of course, Dustin Poirier is one of my favorite fighters, and I'm pulling for him to get that nod and finally get his hands against Oliveira and get his hands around that title. He had the interim version similar to Justin Gaethje, but they weren't able to unify against Khabib. They both came up short, and now he's got another title shot awaiting him. Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, Dustin and Justin, when they faced off each other, I was actually live in Phoenix when they faced off each other a few years back, and what a fight that was. If you never checked that fight out, or you never got to see that fight, you could find it on YouTube or a number of sites. Just go out there, look for that fight. UFC Fight Pass, I'm sure. Go back, look at that fight, revisit that fight. What an amazing, amazing showdown they left in Phoenix. Phoenix seems to bring out the best in fighters, and just like the baby assassin against Figueiredo, that was another crazy fight. Check out that fight between Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. That first fight they had between them. I would be amazed if both of them pull out these victories and they get to rematch, to run it back. That would be an absolute amazing fight if that's the case. If Chandler wins and Oliveira defeats Dustin Poirier, we'll see a rematch of Chandler and Oliveira. And that was a crazy fight earlier this year, and I would love to see that. But of course, Chandler and Dustin, hey, wow. Gaethje and Oliveira, holy crap. Like, what if, right? That's the only thing that we could do. Just wonder what it would be like. Other than that, listen, that card is stacked. Frankie Edgar's going to be in action against Chito Vera, and he's going to be giving that break in there to Trevor Whitman between the Gaethje and Rose fights. Shane Burgos, a hard-hitting Shane Burgos. He's almost a zombie when he steps in there. He takes a beating, he takes a hit, and he gives a good hit. Shane Burgos against Billy Quarantillo, 16-3. Billy Quarantillo, Shane Burgos, 13-3 stepping into that fight. That's going to be an all-action fight as well. To me, the fight of the night will definitely be Justin Gaethje against Michael Chandler. That's what I'm foreseeing. Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington. I don't know how to call this. It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick against Kamaru Usman. I see Kamaru Usman coming out victorious. He's on an 11-fight win streak. His last loss dates back to 2013 against Jose Caceres, in a fight in which he was submitted. A fight in which Kamaru Usman stepped into the octagon at 1-0. That was the second fight of his career, and he got submitted. Since then, perfect. And he's a champ. Hard to pick against him. Hard to pick against Colby Covington, but he already lost to Kamaru Usman in what was an amazing, amazing fight. If Kamaru Usman said it to Joe Rogan at the end of the weigh-ins, or the ceremonial weigh-in, he said it, if he did his homework, meaning Colby Covington, if Colby did his homework, we're going to have an amazing fight, similar to what we saw in the first fight, or even better. But if he didn't, Kamaru says he anticipates putting him away. We just saw him do that. We just saw him do that to Jorge Masvidal one fight ago. So it's hard to pick against Kamaru Usman. Let's hope that we see what they left in the ring. Let's hope that they pick up round 6 from their first body of work between these two fighters, and it'll be nothing short of exciting. Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler is the one that I'm pulling for. Rose, of course, Thug Rose. all she has to do is just be the champ. They keep asking her about the opposition and how she sees, if she feels that she's the hunted now that she's got the title back. And she says, I'm the best. I'm the champion. Not the hunted. I'm the best. That's it. Let all comers come. So amazing UFC 268. The UFC in itself has been on a roll, dating back to the Ortega and Volkanovski fight from a few weeks back. Holy crap, what a fight that was. And then just a week ago, where we ended up crowning a new light heavyweight champion, Glover Teixeira, dethrones Jan Blachowicz. Petr Yan ends up beating Corey Sandhagen in what was an amazing showing. But Petr Yan just steps into this ring as if he's still the king, as if he's still defending the throne, as if he never lost that title, a title that changed hands between him and Aljo with controversy, a title that possibly shouldn't have been stripped, but rules are different, and they ended up stripping him because of a DQ. It was a lot of controversy behind that. Aljo, of course, is a standing champ, and Petr Yan got his hands around an interim version of that title, and we should be seeing that fight run back here shortly, hopefully in the coming months. Petr Yan steps in and continues to step into the octagon and do work as if he's the king, and he displayed it. Corey Sandhagen gave him angles, punches and bunches, flying kicks, kicks to the ankle, kicks to the body, and he just showed a full array of an attack, and Petr Yan had answers. The machine doesn't stop, and he kept going forward, kept putting on the pressure on Corey Sandhagen, and eventually got his hand raised. Corey Sandhagen, he gives you everything. He's a fan favorite style fighter, type fighter, and he's must watch TV whenever he steps in to the octagon. He just did it in his last fight against TJ Dillashaw, a fight that a lot of people thought Sandhagen won in TJ Dillashaw's comeback, but the judges saw it for Dillashaw. He got his hand raised, and Corey Sandhagen got himself into an interim title shot, and he came up short. But I'm sure he's right there. He's knocking on the door, and he's going to be problems for anybody who decides to step into the octagon with him. Big night of fights. UFC 268 and Canelo over in Vegas against Caleb Plant, going for history as well. Huge night of fights. Enjoy the fights, and I'll catch you guys on the recap episodes. Take care of yourselves, and thank you again for all the love you've shown the Toma Tolito show. We're still here. We're still kicking. We're still pushing forward, and I got plenty more episodes coming your way. I'll do my best to catch you guys on the recap episodes, and plenty more stuff that I'm going to be putting out here in the coming days. Take care of yourselves. Much love. Peace out.